Welcome to Precinct 444, a podcast by the National Law Enforcement Museum located in Washington, D.C. Here at Precinct 444, we cover a wide range of topics surrounding American law enforcement through our 4 core shows and bonus content. Today and in future bonus episodes, we will feature an artist from our current exhibit, Officers as Artists, so they can talk about their law enforcement careers and art interests. Be sure to check back every other week as we publish more episodes featuring an artist. And remember, our core shows are released every other Wednesday, so don't miss those. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and come see us in Washington, D.C.
All right, welcome back to Precinct 444. This is another installment of our Officers as Artists series. I'm here today with Ben Brown, one of our artists from the exhibit, and his piece, Pier at the Beach, can be seen in our exhibit with 49 other pieces from other officers from around the country. So Ben, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, to get started, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us what law enforcement agency you hail from.
Sure. I worked for the Prince George's County Police Department in Maryland, which borders Washington, D.C.
So you're pretty local.
Yes.
Perfect. And are you still actively working in law enforcement?
No, I retired 2 years ago, but I went back to work for Prince George's County as a civilian investigator in the county attorney's office. Okay,
perfect. And we'll get in a little bit to your law enforcement career because you are not a stranger to interviews either, is what I've heard from Donna. But we'll talk a little bit about your career, but we also want to talk about what brings you here for this exhibit. So you've got a piece of art in the exhibit. Tell us about Pier at the Beach.
Well, I lived in Florida as a kid, and I always loved the water. And I always felt like art, whoever looks at it can interpret it however they want. Mm-hmm. For me, it has meaning. It's grief and loss, actually. The pier goes out, there's no destination, and it ends in the water. So for me, it's about grief.
And what got you started painting?
Well, it's kind of a sad story. In 2020, my wife and I lost our son, and my daughter-in-law suggested that I find an outlet. And I'd always, just drew on paper and stuff, and I'm not a very good artist, but I bought some acrylic paint and some boards, really small ones, and I just felt like for me, it was an escape, and it took me out of my mindset of being, sad.
We've talked to a lot of people that are featured in this exhibit and just other people who take up artistic talents in general. Like, it's something that art is a way to process your feelings, the happy ones, the sad ones, and it's even though you start doing it from a place that's so down and so negative in your life, it creates this kind of visual representation of that grief that helps you kind of process it, which I think is a very helpful thing.
I agree.
And I know that there are some officers that they're using it to process what they see on the job and what they do, and others like yourself, it's major events in your personal life that help you process it. So we're glad that you're here to share that story with us and talk a little bit about your piece. But do you find that your identity as an officer ever influences what you paint, or is it just kind of a little bit of everything?
It's pretty random. I've done, I drew a picture of my son, a big painting, but I like to do butterflies, all kinds of stuff, birds, some grief stuff too. It's pretty random.
And what led you to acrylic paints? Just the fact that they were there, or was?
Yeah, I went to Hobby Lobby and they had it, and it was cheap.
Yeah.
And I've done some charcoal too.
Okay.
But I'm not very good at it yet.
But yeah, charcoals I've tried, and they are very difficult. Yeah. But it's kind of like when you sit with it and you try to work with it, and you notice that it gets better. Like, there's something kind of satisfying of watching that progression.
I've recently started doing this diamond art, which is...
Oh, yeah. I've seen those.
Terrible on your eyes, but it's fun. And,
yeah.
And you're so focused on it, you're not thinking about anything else.
Yeah. And you see the kind of, as you add them on, you see the picture kind of come together from just a bunch of little squares, which is also really interesting, too.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about, because a big part of this exhibit is our artists are all law enforcement officers, and all of their careers are very unique. So tell us a little bit about your law enforcement career. Where did that start?
Oh, actually, it started when I moved back to Maryland in 5th grade. I met a police officer, and I decided that's what I was going to do. And so I went to college in 1994. I was hired by the Prince George's County Police Department. Did 5 years in patrol, 5 as just a detective at the station, and then in 2004 I went to homicide, and I stayed there for 19 years, ultimately becoming a supervisor. So I saw a lot in that really affected my life, and officers tend to cover that up and not deal with it. And I always felt like my purpose there was to speak for those that couldn't speak, that had been killed.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very powerful way to think about it. And I know Donna has mentioned that some of the cases that you've worked, and maybe it's because of the proximity to DC and things like that, but you've been interviewed on things like investigation discovery and stuff like that. What is that kind of experience of being approached by a network to talk about cases that you've worked? Like, as an officer, what does that feel like? What's that experience like?
I mean, at first it was awkward because I didn't really want to do it, but then I felt like the victim, it needed to be put out there, what had happened to them. And more so, it kind of went into the investigation, and I think it was a highlight for the police world to show that we dedicate our lives to this job, and we'll work days on, there were weeks I'd stay for 4 days straight working a case because I was that dedicated. Absolutely.
And do you find that, to kind of bring in your kind of creative side, do you think that taking up something creative has kind of helped you, even though you're retired now, has kind of helped you to process some of those things that you may have seen on the job?
I believe so. I mean, you're retired, but you're never retired.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away. The memories and the things that I've seen, kids killed, all the way up to older ladies. It's crazy. So I still dream about it and still think about it a lot. And I think about the cases I didn't close, but the art has been my outlet. And I always did woodworking and worked on cars, but this is a little different where I can sit down, spend an hour on it. And for that hour, my mind's free.
And that is a really nice thing about it, because it's very right when you say you retire, but the things that you saw don't go away. And I think that's true for many people, and very hard to escape in this profession. But have you shown your artwork to, because you're still working with the department in some way, have you shown your artwork to your colleagues, and what has their reaction been?
Just my core friends. Most people don't know.
Really?
Although in my new office, I did hang some of my art, and people were always curious about it. Like, where did you buy that? Where did that come from? And I'm like, look, I did that. It's not very good. So some people know.
For any of your colleagues that may be like seeing the things on the job similar to what you had, or are going through a difficult time, would you recommend that they take up something creative? And if so, what would you say?
I would say absolutely, because you can't just go to work and come home and do nothing. You have to find an outlet, whether it be fishing, whatever, painting, woodwork, something. And I have a lot of my friends do that kind of stuff, not necessarily paint, but have extracurricular activities that they do to help get rid of the stress. I mean, my experience with the police department was they don't really help you.
No.
There's no outreach or anything like that, unless you do something you shouldn't do.
And I think we're seeing, because, I mean, we do a lot of officer safety and wellness type of work here and talk to some departments around the country, but we really only talk to the departments they're reaching out to us because they have a program and they want to make it better. And it's something that I think we're seeing more and more across the country, but it's still like every department is very different. And some departments know there's resources out there and some just don't. So the best place to start is just the individual officers taking the time to do it for themselves.
I agree.
Guess. And kind of my final question that I have for you that I've asked everybody that's come through here. The National Law Enforcement Museum is a very kind of unlikely place to have an art exhibit. We obviously have a lot of law enforcement officers who are artists, but it's kind of taken this exhibit to really bring them together and kind of show everyone that, hey, law enforcement artists are a thing. But what does it mean to you to be included in this exhibit and to have a piece that's on display here at the National Law Enforcement Museum?
Oh, it was an honor to me. I never thought any of my art would go anywhere where someone else could see it. And my wife will tell you, I have art hanging all over the house. So she finally created a wall for them all. But it was a dream come true, I think, to be recognized.
Yeah, even if fairly new at painting, but it's a very moving piece, and I really liked how you described kind of the idea of the pier as kind of a symbol of grief and going through the grieving process. And we really appreciate you coming here today and telling us a little bit about your art, about your story, and we appreciate having your piece here up with these other pieces that are in the exhibit.
Thank you.
So thank you. And to our listeners, you can check out Ben's piece, Pier at the Beach, along with all of the other artwork that's on display for the Officers as Artists exhibit through August 30th of this year. So we hope to see you all at the museum, and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to this special bonus content featuring an artist from the museum's temporary exhibit, Officers as Artists, where the artworks of 50 law enforcement officers from all over the country are on display now through August 30th of this year. And remember, our core shows are released every other Wednesday, so don't miss those. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and come see us in Washington, D.C. Please subscribe to Precinct 444 on your favorite podcasting platform to stay connected and to receive our latest content as soon as it drops. We would love to hear from you. Send in your questions, comments, and feedback to precinct444@nleomf.org. You can help us make our content even better. The National Law Enforcement Museum is located at 444 East Street Northwest in Washington, D.C., and is dedicated to telling the story of American law enforcement. We expand and enrich the relationship between law enforcement and the community through educational journeys, immersive exhibitions, and insightful programs. Find us online at lawenforcementmuseum.org and stay tuned for more podcast content from Precinct 444. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you at the Precinct.